This video, let's see, on the 17th of June of 2021. Um, we've for our Team Rainbow Strike Go, we've had some successful seasons with our group of five, actually, and but sometimes things happen, and the same five that you once were don't always get to play together all the time. Um, it's interesting, and I thought this might be helpful for some, if you're trying to replace or build a team or whatnot. So maybe this will be helpful for you. But placing anyone is never easy, especially if it was an enjoyable experience. But the person that will be playing with us, at least for right now, is he just got some real life stuff going on, got a new job, you know what I mean, that he really wants to focus on, and all of us completely understand and agree because life is bigger than Heroes in the Storm, right? Well, depending on who you ask, but that should be the answer. um, Unless you're trying to become pro, but even then, something's going to suffer, like your relationships or your schooling or your job. But we're not that extreme. Um, but either way, we're kind of in a situation where we're trying to figure out how to replace. I did want to talk about like team stuff and really when you're on the context of if you're trying to build a new team. I think the reality is, I think if you're the captain and you're building the team, you have to decide essentially how much you can participate. Obviously and however much you can put in will kind of dictate, I guess, how lofty your goals are. Essentially, like if you want to be the champions of your division, that might require a little bit of time and effort. Definitely going to require more time and effort if you don't even know anyone and you're just doing it from scratch. And there's a lot of different ways you can construct, teams. Like maybe you can take people that aren't as skilled but have potential of being skilled, as long as they have a good attitude and willing to kind of do what's needed. But if everyone's like that, then it's going to be a hard time for teams to make decisions, especially if, as a captain, you're not going about it that way. Usually the captains or the people that put the teams together make the final decisions. I've kind of done a little bit differently with my group because I know the people on my team, or played with them before. And I think with the exception of one person that we recruited later. Pretty much it was all designed with a friend family type feel initially, right? So anytime you do the friend family type feel, trying to increase the expectations or things like that as seasons progress is hard because that's not what initially you set out to do. Ultimately, if you're in a team dynamic in that situation, and you're not satisfied by either the results or pretty much the friend family isn't as important versus winning. Maybe you have to leave the team or disband the team. That's never fun either. But then again, everyone's going to have different serious levels, essentially. Any competitive gaming where you involve a lot of people is going to have those components. So unless you're playing 5 nights a week, 3 to 5 hours a week, or 7 nights a week if you're doing that. I'm sure there's people out there that have the time to do that. Those are extremes, but whatever it is, if you're building a new team, just make sure you set the expectations up front of what's expected, and it really kind of ties down to what you want. For example, for our team, we had a lot of stuff going on, so I really only mandated 2 days a week that we get together for 2 to 3 hours, which isn't a ton, but over time we've been able to see good results, and we are somewhat skilled. I'm probably the least skilled on our team. But I kind of joke about that, but it's probably true actually. Now, having said that, obviously there are times where players could have played more, enjoyed the game more, and they want to continuously play more. But then things change. Life happens, priorities shift, interest shifts a little bit. Maybe some people lost interest in the game. I know a couple of our guys are struggling before the most recent patch that happened. Just to want to play the game, and that's always a struggle too, especially if the game is moving along, but not as quick. But we did get some updates, a couple updates pretty recently. So it looks like they're starting to get back on track with that, which is fantastic, actually. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a handful of things, skill level. I mean, it's interesting having the best player on the team or being the best player of the team. Um, a lot of times those guys get disgruntled a lot of the times unless you know them in advance because they end up trying to carry the team or they feel like they are, or maybe they're above their skill cap and the rest of the team members are kind of holding them down. I mean, that could be a lot of thought process for some. It's really hard to get a superstar um, that isn't really kind of, into their own ego. A lot of times with people that are good, if they join another team and they're not the best player on the team anymore, that ego kind of deteriorates. Um, but sometimes it's just the person. They're just kind of a bad apple and um, aren't really a team player trying to play on a team, right? It's kind of a weird. They want to be the superstar, but the way this game is designed, it's not necessarily designed for people to be a superstar. That's a different game called League of Legends. You can essentially do that over there, from what I understand. And it's interesting about that is then that brings me to the topic of replacing a member. Like you have a cohesive environment already, a lot of the same goals. So, in a sense, it could be easier or harder depending on what you have available. Maybe, if you have subs in the roster, you want to give them an opportunity, which is, I think, what we're leaning towards for sure. Get to see if any of them want to step up because we've played with them in the past. Um, and then, or to actually scout and recruit someone completely new that's never played with us before. What's been amazing though about just the amateur league. I mean, there's really one um, American league right now that I'm aware of, amateur league, not counting tournaments, of course. You have NGS, obviously, that's the big one. Heroes Lounge used to exist only for Europe again. Um, they just didn't have enough participation, unfortunately, for people in the United States. And then you have another up and coming group too, CCS. Shout out to you guys. They're creating. They've kind of had like a glorified scrim league. I don't know if they'll turn it into something more. I don't know if that's their intention or not. They're getting a lot of participation because there's no off season, like anything off season. But props to them because they've been doing a lot for development for the community, things like that. We would do things like that, but we just do not have the time and resources, unfortunately, to kind of make that happen the way that I'd like. But who knows? Maybe at some point we will in the future. More hands I can get in to agree on things. But either way, we're still building our teams. But yeah, just when you're picking your people, just try to do what's the most important as far as factors. Whether it's um, personality, cohesiveness, or whether it's like you just want to get a rock star that's going to carry you to the finish line and deal with whatever attitude they give you. I mean, that's an option, but that's going to grate on you so far. That will last maybe a season, maybe two tops, before you guys like lose your minds. That's never fun, unless you thrive in that, and that's where you kind of have to know yourself as well. If you thrive in kind of like a almost toxic environment where you're just yelling at each other and that gets you going and get you wins, again, not healthy. It sounds stressful, but there are teams that function that way. But I think really just kind of setting the expectations. If expectations need to move and you need to move that goalpost to get your team to that next stage, and that's what you guys talk about too. And there's obviously different ways you can approach it. You can be very diplomatic. Obviously if you got people to join your crew and you've been calling shots the whole time, then it's just whatever you decide and that's what it is. And more like the dictator approach. And some personalities fit better than that. I'm not, unfortunately. I kind of want to hear everyone's thoughts because we're all people, we're all humans, and I feel like everyone has a opinion as far as what they want to do and how they want to progress in their own gameplay. But either way, if you guys have anything else to add, drop it in the comments if you see this on YouTube later. If you want me to elaborate on anything, let me know. I can either do it quickly in the comments or maybe do another video on it if it's a pretty lengthy topic. But Hopefully you guys have fun playing out there, making connections, meeting the community, because for the most part it's a pretty good community. A lot of nerds like to play, like to have fun, and there's a lot of camaraderie, especially in the NGS scene, for the most part. But again, it is gaming, and you're gonna have these people that just are douches and tools, and that's gonna happen with any game, unfortunately. But it feels like the good outweighs more the bad most of the time. But either way, yeah. If you have any questions, just drop them in there. You can find me on Discord. You can follow my Twitch channel, watch me live. That's follow Robert for Twitch, and then I have obviously my YouTube channel, which you might be seeing this later, is Robert HOTS. So definitely subscribe there, show the support, appreciate it. Again, you have a good one. See you guys in there. Take care. Bye.